This is Diane from Teach Pre-K. I've been gone for a little while. It was the end of school, which was nuts. And then my daughter got married. And then I needed an entire week to recover from that, believe it or not. And I took the entire week. But I'm going to be on a regular video schedule all through the summer. I've got so many great things planned. I'm super excited. But today I am going to start with, especially for you new teachers out there, how to teach to your standards without getting completely overwhelmed. If you're lucky, you have a curriculum that you follow. And if you do that, your curriculum is going to follow along with some generalized core standards for early childhood education. Every state has different standards. So if you want to look up your state, this is what you're going to want to type into Google or Yahoo or whatever and do a little search. Just do early childhood education standards for, and then do your state. And then make sure you are on an official Department of Education site or a .gov site for those standards, okay? So if you're looking for, I'm in Utah, so I look for the Utah standards. I want to make sure that it's from my Department of Education or the state government. The other ones aren't going to matter. That's what I want. So you'll get a document, usually a PDF, and it's huge. There is like so many words and so much information, and it can be super overwhelming. So what I decided to do, and I did this at home because I've got a great printer and lots of ink, but I went through and I printed out the standards for math, which includes the vertical alignment for 3 and 4-year-olds towards the back. So they're kind of at a glance thing, but this has every category of math standard for early childhood for my state. Another category is the lifelong learning practices. So that's a really, really, really big section. There's a section for health education, science, physical education, fine arts, social studies, and English language arts. So I printed them out section by section and I stapled them together. So this way, when I am working on an English language arts or literacy activity, I've got right here. I don't need to go thumbing through page after page after page after page. And then, because I've been teaching for a long time, what I did was I went through and I marked these pages up for myself with all the different activities that I already have prepped for each standard. And I did this for every single standard for both 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. If it was already covered in the 3-year-old standard, I did a little check. So I know like I've already written down the activities that I do for this standard. I just need to level up for pre-K. So if it's, like let's say it was math and it was 0 through 5 for preschool, I would go to 10, 15, or 20 for pre-K. So, it's great because some of the activities that we do for English language arts are things that we might only do in circle time or, speaking and listening. We do show and tell, things like that. So if you need to justify show and tell to your administration or your director, it's a standard. It's a speaking and listening standard for early childhood education. And I'm saying this because I had a principal that was all about the standards. Everything had to be learning every single part of your day. And preschool was kind of tough for her because she didn't understand how much passive learning is going on and active learning at the same time. So I could pull this out. I could go to, let's see, my speaking and listening standard, and I could say, Yeah, show and tell right here. So it is my academic and social language, speaking and listening under my language arts uh, group. And it is with prompting and support, begin to recognize that there are rules for conversation. For example, listening to others, staying on topic, and taking turns speaking. Well, that's what we do for show and tell. We share our ideas. Like lots of these work for show and tell. So I just said, I'm meeting my standard. This is one of my standards that I have to meet. This great thing is, and this you won't use really for lesson planning, for lifelong learning, a lot of this is like learning how to share, learning how to take turns, things that will help you lifelong, right? So these are our standards, guys, and I did that where it's like, keeping your hands and body to yourself, and that is under social engagement, conflict resolution, and problem solving. Well, what do I do? What do I say when kids are having an issue? I will say, how can we solve this problem? What do you think is a good idea? Well, go try that. If that doesn't work, come back to me and I'll help you out. That is a standard and is part of early human development and early childhood education. So for every single standard, I went through and wrote things that I do, and some of them are just things that I say during my day, like keep your hands to yourself. If you're wearing blue, you can go line up, right? That is a one-step instruction. That's a standard. Color recognition, that's a standard. We do our weather report of the day. What does the sky look like? What does it feel on your skin? If it's snowing, what do we wear? That's a standard. So many things that you do and say throughout your day that might not be center activities are part of your standards. People say, why do you need a dramatic play center? Oh my gosh. There are, 20, 30, maybe 40 standards that are met through a child playing with other children in the dramatic play center. Same with the sensory bins, same with the block tables, same with your library center and your writing center. There are so many fine motor standards, gross motor standards, that are being met in a way where you're not even thinking about it. And all it takes, you guys, is going through your state standards, separating them out and becoming really familiar with them and writing down, well, this is what I do for this standard. There wasn't one standard where I didn't have something that I do in my school year to meet that standard. I also got to see where I was a little bit deficient in my teaching of the early childhood core standards. I am not a musical person. I have never been a musical person. We listen to music, we have dance parties, we sing, but I am not a big use musical instruments and it's just not my forte. But in reading my standards and reviewing them again for myself and writing what I do, I'm like, I do that. But you know what? I can add that in more. I can add this more. I don't do a lot of clapping syllables. It's just something, I don't know why I don't do that. It doesn't come supernaturally to me. So that is something that I can add in my circle time. We could do that with name games. We could clap someone's name. We could go Sam, Samantha. We could do little things like that. And that's introducing them to syllables and how words kind of have a natural break to them, stuff like that. But it was super wonderful for me to see, and to see that all those darling little crafts I do and the songs I sing and all that stuff, I am like meeting this fine arts, like all these standards. I'm meeting all of them during my year. What I love is when you work for someone who's either your director or your principal, and they are all about meeting the standards. And then they come down to early childhood and they have absolutely no clue what's going on. That's what I'm dealing with right now, but they love everything that we do. But I did have a principal who didn't want us to do show and tell. And I got to pick up my English language arts section of my Utah early childhood core standards and say, oh gosh, we have a speaking and listening standard. And show and tell actually covers at least 3 of those standards. So when I'm doing show and tell, I'm not just doing this bring something fun from home. I am working on a standard for early childhood education because these kids are so young that they need to listen, to work on speaking and to work on listening and to work on learning how to ask questions. What are questions? They just don't know any of that. So it was fantastic to have all this knowledge in my back pocket so that when a director or a principal comes in and says, oh, that's a fun activity, I can say, yeah, it's a fun activity, but I am meeting my gross motor standard for, moving your body in, across the center plane, like doing different things or whatever, following a series of movements or imitating another living thing through movement. So the things that we do that people think are just fun, yeah, they're fun because we make them fun, but they're essential. They're an essential part of development. And that's why it is so, so, so important for you, if you're just starting out, if you've been teaching for a few years, if you've been teaching for 25 years, to review your standards, to take the time to break them down into sections, go through them, and write down what you're already doing. For one thing, it lets you know what a freaking fabulous teacher you are, that you're hitting all these standards like left and right every single day. And just making sure that you are helping these kids at this critical moment of development to get everything they need to move on to their next phase of life and their next phase of learning, and giving them this fantastic foundation at this critical time of their life, because it is the most critical. Your job is way more important than anyone else's. They don't pay you like it is. They might not treat you like it is. Please, I hope they do. But teaching children ages 2 to 5 is the most important job in the world. That's why they are so attached to their parents during that time, because they need to be taught every little thing in a kind, loving, and supportive way. And that's the goal, and that's what we're all doing. So, to help you with lesson planning and to help you with all the crazy questions that you get sometimes, print out your standards, break them down into sections, read them, write what you already do. It doesn't take that much time. And I swear you will be a better teacher for it, and a much better lesson planner too, because you'll be a lot more aware of what you actually have to do. So, guys, my challenge to you is to make your standards-based teaching super playful, super fun, engaging, fantastic. It's hard, but you can do it. In the coming weeks, I've got lots of help for you, and I think you're going to love it. So hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, a like, whatever you want, and I'll see you in a couple of days with more great stuff.